Okay, so let's start. Hi and welcome everybody to this webinar on Java backend development offered by Geeks for Geeks. My name is Yogeshwar and I have with me Shashi Bhushan Kumar. Shashi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Shashi. I'm tech lead and mentor at Geeks for Geeks. So I teach here DSL Go and Java backend and design backgrounds. In past, I worked with Paytm as a Java backend developer for 1 year, and I have worked with Adobe also for 2 years as a full stack developer. So I had worked on Java, Spring, and these things.
Great. So thanks Shashi, thanks a lot for that introduction. My name is Yogeshwar as I already said, and I have close to 3.5 years of experience in backend development, primarily developing web services. Or more specifically, if I were to say, I was developing microservices mainly utilizing technologies like Java, Spring, AWS, that is cloud part of it. And these microservices which I developed in my working experience were responsible for handling a very large volume of data, right? So from that, I have gained experience in backend development side of things. Now, let's try to talk a bit. Let's try to set a little bit of context. I do not have a PPT here. I'm more of a one-to-one teaching kind of person. So if you have any questions, please note them down and post them in the. Feel free to post them in the chat board. And yeah, our team will monitor that and we'll try to answer them as soon as possible. Once we are over with the discussion, right? We will go on ahead with the interactive Q&A session, right? So let's try to understand what exactly is backend development, right? Now, many of you, or almost all of us, would have utilized or used Facebook.com or purchased something from Amazon.com, right? Now, what exactly is the component which you are using as an end user, right? Either you use their mobile app or you use their browser based website. Now, those things are exposed to the end user as a front facing component, right? Now, things which are front facing, can we call them front end of the application? Does that make sense? Right? Now, let's think for a while. Facebook has got around a billion users. Now, when you visit different pages on facebook.com, let's say, for example, maybe your own timeline or your friend's profile, or let's say some messages, right? In the chat history. Okay. Now, these pages, each of them contains a lot of data. For example, some data on Facebook, something can be a photo, a video, a comment, a status, right? Now, this all data, where do you think does that data resides? Right? Does that data lives in your browser or in your mobile app? Right? Think for a while. No, that is not, frankly, that is not possible, right? So there has to be something besides the mobile app or browser based website which is there, which is providing that data. Now that thing is not exposed to you as a end user, right? That is something resting or something present on the back side of things. Can we call that backend, right? So that is backend development. So I hope by now I have made it clear a distinction between the front end and back end and why the two are required. Okay. And just a little bit of discussion around how the two interact with each other, right? Now your mobile application presents the information to you, but it doesn't have the data, right? So where does that data comes from? Backend supplies that data. So this is how backend and front end interact with each other to serve an end-to-end user experience, right? So I hope I have set the context for backend development by now. Let's talk a little bit about Java. Java is one of the world's most popular enterprise-wide use programming languages, mostly because of its core features like object-oriented programming, platform independence, excellent support for multi-threading, right? And then a plethora of community-wide frameworks available, right? So if I were to emphasize on object-oriented programming, it is a way, or it is like one of the principles that helps you map real world to the software domain to so as to solve the real world problems, right? Now, why Spring Framework? Okay. Java is a programming language. You can solve your problems in Java, but why Spring Framework? Now, before I go into why Spring Framework, let's discuss why any framework at all, right? So, if you have worked in any enterprise company or any startup or any product, right? So, some of the things that you would have realized, right? Or those of you who are still in college and might not be able to appreciate it that much, there are some patterns which are there in any product that you build. For example, if I'm developing a web service, right, or I would go, let's say, backend for a particular product, right? Now, that backend side of things has to be deployed on a cloud like AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure or something like that, right? Now, some of the common things might be interacting with a database. It can be a relational database like MySQL, right? Or it can be a NoSQL database like DynamoDB or Cassandra or something like that. Interacting with a cache like Redis, Memcached. Interacting with a messaging system like Kafka. Okay. Now, interacting with a file storage system like AWS S3, distributed file storage system, right? So these are some of the common requirements which are applicable to almost most of the backend services, right? Now, whether you are working in one company or the another, if both of you have the same requirements, does it make sense for each of them to develop their own custom logic for that, right? You are free to do that, but does that make sense? It doesn't, right? Now, why not let's have something which handles all these common things for us already? And that is where a framework comes into picture, right? A framework is like a skeleton or a structure that helps you get up and running to actually focusing on the business problem, because that framework or skeleton takes care of the common things. Okay, so Spring is one such framework. Okay, Spring provides with you with a lot of things that otherwise you would have to develop on your own. Okay, so this is why Spring framework is required. Now, if you were to see the job listings for the backend developer role, you would see a vast majority of them, right? A really vast majority of them require Spring as the key skill, right? This is how enterprise-wide Spring ecosystem is, right? So, having said that, so I think we can go for the Q&A session, right? What are your questions?
So so I just want to discuss the learning part. That if you are starting if you want to start learning backend Java backend development, then what exactly the path you should follow. So first of all, you should learn the core Java, like the if else, for loop, methods, OPS concepts, and then you can go for the advanced concepts of Java like multi-threading, solid programming, JDBC, and then you can learn about the framework like the Spring framework, Spring Boot, and then about the databases like the relational MySQL and NoSQLs like MongoDB or DynamoDB or any other DB, right? And then you can learn that how JPA or Hibernate can be used to interact with these databases in the Spring framework. And then you can read about the REST APIs, the XRS, and the messaging queue, that how a messaging queue like Kafka can be used to do some sync operations in these enterprise applications. And then you can read about the cache like Redis, and you should know the other concepts like what is auth 2.0, and what are the microservices, and what is JSON. Basically, what exactly your response should be, and how that response will be used by the front end component, right? And then you can read about the web security, that how you can make your application more secure. So you can read about these things. Apart from that, you can read about the cloud computing and about the cloud web services like AWS. You can start with AWS, and then you can read about the distributed system as well,
Exactly.
like what is scalability and how to design the APIs, what's the difference between get and post API, and how what is database sharding. So these concepts will help you to build the better web applications, and a basic idea of front end will also help you to.
Yeah, definitely it does help.
Right.
So if you are aware of the what exactly are the limitations of the front end, what exactly are the capabilities of the front end, You can design your backend in such a manner that it adheres to those kind of things. A contract between the front end and the back end needs to be managed. So yes, it helps. It helps. A little bit of knowledge in the front end also makes you a better backend developer.
Right.
So that
Yeah,
helps.
so we have already some questions. So the first question was, someone knows already Java, then what next? What next he should
Right.
study?
Great, great. So it's one of the common questions that come across, right? So if you already know Java, right? So when you say, so let's take a step back. When you say I already know Java, what exactly do you know in Java? Like basic Java, can you solve like simple algorithmic problems, or can you really write some kind of programs like which an end user can use? Can you write only console-based application which takes system input and system output? Or if you can, if you have really mastered like advanced concept of Java, like multi-threading and network programming and all those kind of things. Now, I assume that by now you are comfortable with the advanced concepts as well. If you are, then I would suggest it's time you skill up to the next level. That is, know and learn how exactly Java is utilized in companies which are developing products being used by millions and billions of users. Now, there comes the frameworks like Spring. Right? So, next natural progression would be go and learn Spring. If you are into Java and want to learn backend development in Java, that would be simple suggestion. Get
Yeah.
started with Spring.
Yeah, so we are starting two courses for these things, like for Java, Spring, Spring Boot, Hibernate, REST APIs, and these things, microservices. So one course is the offline batch, which will start on 16th of December, and it's in classroom program in Noida. And if you are in college, then you can attend the classes. So it's basically winter training program. And another course is a online live batch, which you can attend from any location. You just need an internet connection and your a laptop. So that course will start on 6th January, and it's fifth. I mean 5 weeks long course. So in that course, we'll discuss everything. We'll discuss the important concepts of Java, and then we'll start Spring Boot. We'll discuss also Redis, Kafka, basically how we can use these things to create a real world application. I mean, similar to real world application. And we'll be discussing two minor projects and one major project which you can showcase in your resume. And of course, it will be really helpful for your off campus interviews. I mean, if you have these skills written on your resume and you have these projects on your resume, then it's easier to get your resume shortlisted, right? So we'll discuss all these things in the course.
Mhm.
And the one other question is, if someone already knows Python and Django, I mean, someone is doing Python Java, backend development with Python Django. So is it worth to learn Java backend development?
I'd say it depends on the company to company, right? If you're going for a Java shop, then it helps to have those skills on your resume, right? Now, if you already know Python and Django, and if you are going for a Python shop, right? Many companies, Python is also one of the enterprise wide use languages. Now, if you are going for a Python, it would be easier to get job at Python-based company. So it depends on whatever kind of company you want to apply for. Right? It depends totally on that.
Right. And see, the fact is, if you already know Python Django, then you can very easily learn these things. I mean, because the most of the concepts like
Right.
client server architecture, APIs, and MVC, all these things are same in both the frameworks.
So fundamental principles remain the same.
Right.
It is how each framework and language choose to tackle it. That's a little bit of difference. But if you know Python and Django, you know what the different design principles are, and that will really help you quickly get up and running in Java and Spring if you want to.
So Shravik Ghosh is asking, what is the difference between full stack developer and a backend developer?
Great. It's one of the greatest questions, right? So full stack developer, as the name suggests, right? A person who knows both the client side and the server side of things and plays an active role in both of them is a full stack developer. Whereas a backend developer is mainly associated with the backend side of things. Right? Now, when I say backend side of things, it means he's going to he's going to look at like what is the server side architecture going to be, right? Whether to what kind of database do they need, whether they need a relational database or a NoSQL database, right? Okay, what all services or microservices would be there, right? You can't have like one application, one server side application which is handling all the business logic, right? Different kind of services which would be there, right? So these are some of the questions which backend developer faces, whereas on the full stack developer has to take care of both the side of things. That is my understanding, right?
Right. Yeah. Uh, One is asking, will you teach also? Yeah, I mean, we'll teach basics of Spring security in the course. See, I mean, we can't cover all the features of Spring in that course, but yeah, we'll discuss all the important and basic concepts of these things. Right. The one question is, what exactly one should read in advanced Java, because a lot of topics are there, like we are seeing JFX, then software programming, JDBC, a lot of things, right? So what exactly one should read in, and servlet JSP also there.
Hmm.
So,
So I would say some of these technologies that are there
Mhm.
are, at least in my experience, of last 3.5 years of experience, I haven't used them, right? So some of these things are no longer used in enterprise world.
Like servlet and JSP
Yeah,
are really old.
those things are not even used, right? So they were good for creating the applications when in their own times, but now they are no longer used. So if you were to ask me, I would say go with multi-threading, master it, like executor framework and executor service and whatever new things are coming up, whatever changes came in Java 8, right? So learn them. Then comes your database connectivity. So learn the JDBC database connectivity generation 1 to 4 and whatever changes have come in those in that particular domain, because that has been consistent throughout. That is being actively used still, right? So I would suggest multi-threading and database connectivity. These are two things which I would look in any candidate. Like they should know at least this much.
The one question is, what is the job scope of Java developers? See, I was just searching on Glassdoor and I found that uh, so basically more than 50% software developers work as a backend developer, right? And Java is still the most used programming language for the backend development for enterprise applications, right? So I see, I mean, the scope of Java backend developers is really, I mean, so basically, if you have the correct skill, then you will get a lot of interview calls, right? In fact, you can search on Glassdoor and Naukri.com, and you can see the job listings. You can see that why Spring and Java is so much in demand, right? So you should Google about these things, right? But according to me, I mean, a lot of job scope for these skills. The one question is, skills required to get into Google.
Yeah. So if you are asking me, then it would depend on what level you are trying to enter there, right? So I'm assuming that you have less than 2 to 3 years of experience. Now, honestly, skills required to get into Google, it depends on where you come from. If you are from a tier one college, then yes, you can get an interview, and then they generally ask data structure and algorithm. Having said that, if you have some skills in Java and Spring and some kind of way to show that, right? You have skills, but you have no online presence. You don't have your projects on LinkedIn or GitHub. Then it doesn't even matter. It's as good as you don't even know about Java, right? So if you have those projects, it helps the recruiter to know that yes, you know something about the things you have written on your resume. So if I say, what does it take to get into Google? Learn data structure and algorithm well. Have some online projects on GitHub or LinkedIn, which catches the attention of recruiter, and hopefully you get a call. Now it's up to you.
Yeah, so the one question, I mean, so I'm simply combining two, three questions. The question was like, what exactly, which technology one should learn so that they can get the interview call from the tech giants like Amazon or Google or Microsoft or Adobe. Like, they're asking like, they should they read about advanced Java, Spring, or MLAI, or Python Django, or front-end development, or Android development? I mean, which skill is the most desirable skill for these companies?
Hmm. Okay. So if you were to think about the companies like scale of Amazon, Adobe, Uber, Google, etc. So these companies do have requirements for all the profiles, whichever you have mentioned, and all the technologies that you have mentioned, right? Now, as you said earlier, that a crux or a majority of, or if I would use the appropriate word, that is meat of the logic or business logic, it resides on the back end side of things. For example, complex decisions like which product to recommend to you when you next time visit the Amazon.com based on the products you have served in the past or searched in the past, right? This is recommendation engine. So the core logic or the meat of the logic of this algorithm resides in the backend side of things, right? So that's why if I were to say I would and on any day prefer like backend development, and I have experience in Java and Spring only, right? I haven't learned Python and Django. I never needed it. So I would say if you want, then go for Java Spring. That is what I would recommend. It's from my personal experience. You might have different experience, and you can differ on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it should depend on your interest. Like if someone is interested
Hmm.
in front end development, then you can be very good at that thing, and you can create really awesome projects, and you can publish them on GitHub, and I mean, you can get the interview call, right?
So if that interests you, it
Yeah.
never interested me to apply some button or that kind of thing to change the color of the widget or those. I know front end development is much more than those things, but
Yeah.
to me it never interested. I like to handle backend side of things, the code logic and the big data problems that I face at my job. Right, those are the things that I like. It's my opinion, definitely it is.
Uh, so the one question is, okay, so how much companies expect from, I mean, Java from a fresher? See, I mean, so when companies go for the on-campus placement, go for the on-campus recruitment, they will judge you on the basis of your coding skill, your problem-solving skill, and your knowledge of CS fundamentals like operating system, DBMS, networking, and they can ask questions on one programming language like C++ or Java, or some other things like puzzles and these things. I mean, if you're in college and if you don't know a framework or something, I mean that's okay. But it's good to know about these things in college, and it's good to I mean it will provide you the extra edge, right? If you are
Hmm.
applying off campus, or if you are in the on campus placement, if you have this thing listed on your resume, then these things will give you the extra edge.
So, in one word, if I were to answer, how much Java should you know as a the question is particular to college
Right,
students,
right,
right?
yeah.
So I would say learn the fundamentals of OOPS really, really well and know them in depth. When to use a particular pattern like inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation, right? What exactly does those things mean, right? So if I were to sit in an interview, I should be at a position where I can explain to my interviewer in a really simple language, and that shows your mastery of the concepts. That's what I would expect from a candidate.
Yeah. And the one question was regarding the courses. So you can see the details of the courses on the links given in the video description, right? So the offline course has price 8,000, and it is a 2 week program starting from 16th of December to 27th of December. And the second course is online live batch, which will start on 6th of January and will uh, go to 12th of Feb, right? And its cost is 10,000. So you can see the details on the link. You'll find the syllabus and prerequisites and everything. So the one question was difference between Spring and Spring Boot.
Yeah, great. So Spring is basically a framework of frameworks. Like there are multiple frameworks which are underlying Spring ecosystem. So, okay. So something like let's say for database connectivity, right? So there is a Spring Data framework, right? Now if I were to go for something like social integration, like integration with websites like Facebook and Twitter and all those, so there is another set of library or another set of tools that are called Spring Social, right? If you simply go to just Google Spring projects, and you will get a lot of projects that are there in the Spring ecosystem. Okay,
Right.
this is Spring. Now if you talk about Spring Boot, so as the name suggests, when you say boot up, what does that mean? Boot up essentially means one that helps you quickly get up and running with anything. So Spring Boot is something that helps you get up and running with utilizing the Spring framework very quickly. So that is what the basic difference is. And majority of the time, I utilize Spring Boot, right? So that is a basic difference. Very 36,000 feet view of like what is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot.
The one question is the hot technologies like ML, AI, then IoT and blockchain. So I mean, like one should learn these skills, or one should learn the Java backend. I mean, so again, the question is same as the previous, but basically he wants to know that uh, which skill is
In demand.
yeah, in demand.
Great. That makes sense. Mostly people. Okay. So see, If I were to put things in a perspective, you said ML, IoT, blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Now these are
Big data.
big data. These are different paradigms, or these are different things that are coming up in the tech space, right? Now, but basic thing that you always require is programming knowledge. If you know coding and if you know the fundamentals of software development, these things you can learn and apply in them. For example, I were to take a simple example of, let's say, Internet of Things. You want to develop Internet of Things. Then there also there is a front end and there is a back end side of things. So these are the things that you can't escape from. There is nothing like IoT, either IoT or Java backend development, either machine learning or backend development, right? Backend development is a requirement so that you can deploy your machine learning model so that end user can have them. For example, recommended system in Amazon, it's a machine learning model, right?
Right.
But it is running on a backend side of thing. It is running on the server side, right? So there is a backend developer who enabled that machine learning model to serve the experiences to the user. So I would say the question itself is not up to mark. Like there is nothing like IoT or these things. You have to learn backend development so that you can deliver the experiences in these domains.
So I mean, if anything is on the web, then I mean there must be some backend, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's why there are. So basically, there are more than half a million developers, Java backend developers, are working as a Java backend developer. So you can imagine the job scope and the demand of Java backend, right? The one question was it's very interesting question. So let's say if someone is in testing background or someone is working uh, as a, let's say, DBA or in other profile,
Non-programmer.
yeah, non-programmer profile, or let's say someone is working as a DevOps, let's say, then how, I mean, what should be the path with the help of which someone can switch their profile to the backend developer? Because the salary of backend developer is little more than
Okay. So yeah, it is there. So what I would suggest is that yes, as you already said, that if you want to switch to backend development side of things, then yes, necessarily you need to know about those things because see there is an inherent resistance to the change of profile in any kind of thing. For example, within a company, if you want to go from one domain, let's say DevOps, to a software development side of things, then there is a bit of resistance in them also, right? Now, if you were to go from one company to another, there might be a slight chance that they may think that if you have the required skills, then they may entertain you. But the star or the required terms and condition is that you have the required skills. Right? You want to go to the backend side of things, you better know framework of backend. You better have some projects that showcases your skills. You better have some online presence. You better have some videos that demonstrate that this is what you have done. You better have a story to tell to the prospective interviewer that this was the problem statement, this is how I choose to solve it, these were the decisions which I made during the process of solving the problem, and this is the end product. You need that kind of thing. So this is my
yeah. And I know someone personally who had changed his profile from testing to developer in Adobe. So basically, I mean, within the company, it's I mean, you can change. So like in Adobe, you can apply internally for different profiles, right? And you will have some interviews, and they will ask questions on DSA and design, and again they will judge your skills, like how good you are in backend, or do you know these skills, like, so let's say if you are moving to a team which is working on Spring or Spring Boot, then you must know these things, right, very well. Then only you can switch your profile from another background, another profile to backend profile. So the one question is like, which framework has better performance, Spring or Django?
never use Django. Can't compare.
Yeah, so it depends on the use case, right? Like, so if we talk about the backend framework, then we have the PHP and framework like Symfony and PHP Cake. Then we have the Python Django. Then we have the Node.js, and then we have the Spring and Spring Boot, right? But I think the Node.js is for the different use case. Spring and Spring Boot are for different use case. So you can Google these things, because we have not done much work on Python Django. Okay. So can we learn Spring Framework without knowledge of JSP and Servlet?
I don't know JSP and Servlet. I know
Right.
Spring. So yeah, that's a proof of example.
Yeah.
I am the proof. Yes, you can.
So yeah, so I had learned about JSP and Servlet because in Paytm and some APIs were in Servlet. Yeah, so because that was very old. But if you know these things, it's good. If you don't know, I mean that's okay. So you can learn Spring Boot without knowing JSP and Servlet. How to learn system design?
Okay. I think this is one of my kind of questions. Great. So I hope by now you have some experience under your belt. Let's say you have close to like more than 3 years of experience, because then only it makes sense to have system design interviews, and otherwise you don't even need to do it, right? So if I were to say how do you learn system design, you better enroll for my system design online course. Okay, just joking. So see, when we say system design, let's try to take things into perspective. What exactly is system design, right? So for example, a simple question could be like design Uber, right? Now you need to understand what exactly are the different components that go into making of a Uber. Can you come up with breaking down of problems? Like can you identify different parts of the problem? Like there is a rider, there is a driver, and there has to be some kind of system that matches the rider to the driver. So basically it's a demand supply matching kind of system. Now you need to come up with different kind of architectures and those kind of things, so that you can come up with some kind of possible solution, and that possible solution doesn't have to be something like that is running currently in Uber, right, in production. That can be something like minimum viable product or a prototype kind of thing. Now the question was more on how do you learn system design? Get into a company which works on some of the web app kind of thing. One way, right? You learn by experience. Another way, you read a lot of architecture articles on some of the popular websites like highscalability.com, right? This has got a plethora of architectures from very early stages of Twitter, Facebook, and all those kind of things to how they are running right now, right? So one way could be you learn from others experience. One way you gain experience by working on a product. Another could be you can maybe have some mentor to teach you.
Yeah. Another question was, what are the skills that one should know to be a Java backend developer, or simply what are the skills that companies want to see you in your resume? So I mean, apart from Spring, what exactly one should know?
Yeah, that is a better question, because we have been repeating on Spring for quite a while. Okay, so what exactly should you know as a backend developer? What I would suggest is, as a backend developer, mainly it's like data and the processing, right? How can you handle data and processing, right? So when it comes to data, you need to have knowledge of different types of databases that are out there in the market, when to use which particular kind of database. Okay. Another is messaging systems like Kafka, caches for low latency requirements, so read heavy applications, right? Another thing which one should know, right, is some one or the another cloud technology like Amazon Web Services, since it is the most widely used and it has the largest market share, or some Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure, whichever you want. So these are few things: database, cache, messaging systems, cloud. These are 4 points just to summarize this. These are something that you should focus on.
Yeah. So how the role of a DBA is different from a role of backend developer?
So personally, I have never been a DBA, first of all, but as the name suggests, it's more of a like DBA tackles the database side of things. For example, it is not actively parts in the database designing, like what exactly is the database going to be, or how are tables going to be normalized or not normalized, right? Which database you are going to use, whether you are going to use for MySQL or MariaDB or Cassandra. That is not the role of database administration, DBA, right? A DBA basically supports in whatever operations a backend developer wants to perform, right? DBA is more of like a enabler kind of role, not the active participator, rather an enabler, right? So that is the basic distinction between a DBA and a backend developer.
And one more thing, like, so in some companies, like same person is working as a backend developer, the same person may work as the DevOps, and he can monitor all the servers and everything, the logs. So it depends on company to company.
Yeah, it definitely depends.
Right.
So, for example, there are companies. If you are working in a startup, right, you don't have the luxury of hiring a different DBA when your product is not even ready, when you don't have any funds. what do? You can't hire people, but you have to take care of the systems end to end, right? So you are the one person, one man army, tackling the backend side of things, monitoring the service, deploying the code, building CI/CD pipelines, right? Handling the clouds and different cost metrics, maybe like financial things also, right? So this depends on company to company. But normally, if you come at large scale company, there is certain process. Like there are people for backend development, then there are people for enabling them or supporting them in their operations, and these things. Yeah.
Yeah, so the one question is regarding the course. So that how much time is required for the online live course? See, the online live course will be conducted thrice in a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Right? And apart from those classes, you will have to give at least 7 to 8 hours in a week to complete the assignments and complete the other things, right? So basically, you have to spend 7.5 hours in the class and seven or eight extra hours to complete the things, right? So basically, approx 15 hours per week to run the online batch. And another question was, what are the projects that we'll be discussing in the courses? So the one project will be on the Spring Boot, in which we'll be using the MySQL database and the Redis as a cache and Kafka as a messaging queue. And then we'll have a similar minor project in which we'll discuss. I mean, we'll use these things with Spring Security and Spring Cloud. And in major project, we use all these things like the Spring Boot and the Spring Cloud, Spring Security, and the Kafka, Redis, MySQL, and basically we'll deploy this that microservice on AWS as well. So these are the projects that we'll discuss in the course. The one question is, it's very irrelevant, but yeah, how can I move to Python data science? Do you have any idea?
Google for it.
Because we are not expert in that domain.
Yeah, it's simple. You'll get the first link in. You'll get information in first link itself.
Yeah. Okay. Does the certifications like OCJ that provides that is given by the Oracle, is that good?
Never heard about it.
See, I mean so to crack the interview of any company, there are two steps. The one step is to get the interview call, and the second step is to crack the interview. So certifications may help you to
see. If I were to interview somebody, more than a certification, I would like to see what they have accomplished with the skill they have written in the resume.
Right.
Can they answer my questions in a justifiable manner? Do they understand the trade-offs which are involved in designing a particular application? You write some certification, and that's good. Certification shows that you have put in the effort to earn that certificate, and I respect that. But if I were to think from my perspective, I would like to see that how much useful is your skill going to be in my project, right? Do you have that much like capability so that you could be up and running in my project with minimum guidance? These are some of the things which I require, which I'm not sure if that certificate is going to ensure those things.
And another irrelevant question is difference between JavaScript and Spring. JavaScript.
No.
See, JavaScript is another programming language, and which is mainly used for front end. I mean, yeah, JavaScript can be used as a backend also if you use Node.js. But there's no relation between JavaScript and the Spring. Like Java and JavaScript are both different things, right? Okay. Advait is asking, I'm into SAP ABAP development, and I know core Java. So many developers, let's say someone is working in Salesforce or someone is working in SAP. So they don't write code. They simply work on some tools, and they work on data, but they don't write code. So I mean, how they should start learning these things?
Good. So basically, if I were to rephrase the question, it's basically they are utilizing the tools which have already been developed, right? They are just like, if I were to say simple things, like they utilize the tools to extract data from somewhere, then use some plug and play kind of things to do some processing and load them into another kind of thing, right?
Right.
So this is, you are not writing the logic, you are just utilizing, right? And even if you are writing the logic, that is a very very high level logic. You are not getting into nitty gritty details of what goes in behind that processing node that you use in whatever pipeline that you are creating at your job. So I would say get started with some programming language, right? And Java is one of the choices, right? So if you want to get into programming side of things, start with the programming language, start building some project, learn the basic fundamentals. Once you start learn the syntax, build something with that, have something to demonstrate, right? So once you learn the basics of Java, go with advanced concept, master OOPS well. Once done that, go to some framework, develop some enterprise level thing, have something to demonstrate on that. That is the path, the natural progression. That is.
Yeah, so one question is about the online class. See, the one online class is not the one-to-one class. So basically, I'll be conducting the class, and approx 20 to 30 students will be attending the class. So it will be very similar to the offline class where you can ask your doubts, your questions. So we have a sample video on the course link, so you can see that video. So that will give you the better idea that how the classes will be conducted online. Another question was, what are the things that matter in resume to get shortlisted in companies like Adobe or Microsoft?
At what experience level?
I think 2-3 years.
Okay. So if I were to take a look at the level of 2-3 years, it depends, right? Since this is not a campus hiring, it's a lateral hiring. It depends on the kind of team that is going to hire you, right? For example, if I were to take an example of Adobe itself, then there are teams. Adobe's flagship products are desktop products, right? They require skills in C++ majorly, right? Whereas there are some teams which are working on backend kind of stuff, like web services kind of stuff or big data kind of things. So it depends on what team is hiring, and if you have a match with the team that is hiring, you have high chances of being shortlisted. However, if some C++ based team is hiring and you have got skills in backend, they are not going to entertain that.
Yeah. The one question is, what are the prerequisites to learn Spring framework? So I think core Java and Java concepts like multi-threading and JDBC are more than enough to start.
Yeah, if you know basics of Java, you know how to write. Like if I were to give a concrete example, if I say that create some classes and some functions and interfaces, if you can do that, you are good to go.
Yeah. And knowing about the client server architecture and what is server, these things will help you.
These things will help you, but they are not required for getting into Spring. These things will anyway be covered in the course.
Yeah. The one question is, what is REST API?
You come in the course. Okay, great. So REST API. So there are two parts to it. One is like, now it's a little detailed question. I can't explain it in this webinar's context. If I were to give a simple example, let's understand what exactly is API, right? You have used a TV remote, right? Now, for interacting with the TV or changing a channel, do you need to understand the complexity that is hidden behind when you press the button of changing the channel, right? Do you need to understand whatever things are there, like communication to the satellite, cathode ray tubes, and all those complex wiring that is going on inside the TV? You don't need to understand that, right? You are being exposed a simple button through which you interact with the TV. Now, that is the API which TV remote is exposing. I hope you understand the API thing, right? Now, if I were to talk about REST API, so REST stands for representational state transfer. Okay, so to transfer state of an object from backend side to the front end side. Okay, so these REST APIs are developed. REST is more of an architectural guideline than some enforced principle or kind of thing. So simple words, a way of developing web services which help you transfer data from backend to the front end. That is a very very like smallest version of it. This is not the entire thing.
Yeah. The one question is how to prepare for on-campus placement. Yeah, so for on-campus placement, as I have earlier told that you should know you should be good at DS and Algo. You should know how to solve a problem using an algo or the data structure, and then you should know the CS fundamentals like OS networking, DBMS, some puzzles, a language, right? So for on-campus placement, it's not compulsory to learn these things, right? To learn a framework or something. But if you're learning these things, it's good. It will help you to be a good backend developer in the company that you join, or it will provide you the extra edge for your
So
interviews.
if I were to take things into perspective,
Yeah.
suppose for shortlisting or cracking the interviews, this is not required. But taking a hypothetical case where you and one another candidate both are on the same page, right? Now, if they look at the resume to see which person has actually put in the effort to learn the skills of the industry, right?
Right.
That's where these things come into picture, right? If you have a project that showcases that you have learned Spring and you have some project to showcase it, and the company also have requirements for backend developer, which is there in almost all of the cases, they are going to give you a preference.
Yeah, so Dilip is asking, I'm in a Java company, so this course is for me. Yes, I mean, this course will help you to learn that how to build a Java web application using Spring, Spring Framework, and other concepts. So yeah, it will be helpful for you. I'm moving to Bangalore. How to find job with what technology? So the one basic thing is you can search on LinkedIn, you can search on Glassdoor, you can search on Naukri.com. So make profile on these websites on LinkedIn, Naukri.com, Monster.com, Indeed.com, and you'll get a lot of call if you upload your resume and if you create your portfolio on those websites. So these are the simplest ways to.
One thing that I found more effective,
Yeah.
like you can go and upload these things, and that is perfectly fine. That is one of the surefire. Another thing is get into touch with your network, right? Which college did you pass out from? There must be some or the other people. If you are into technical industry for even for quite a while, and you have a network, right? We don't realize the value that is lying there inside our network. Maybe some person out there in Bangalore is looking for the skills that you possess. It's just a matching of connecting with that person, right? Tap into your network, connect with the people, your college alumni, your company alumni, right? Maybe recruiters in Bangalore, right? There are, in today's time, there is no lack of, like, if you can get in touch with the people are more than eager to help you out.
Yeah. So one question is, okay, so question is like, if someone is doing coding in C++, then why one should learn Java? See, I mean, so C++ is not for web. If you want to build a web application, then you must uh, use Java or Python or other language, right? So you can't create a web application using C++. So you can use C++ for computer coding or for the preparation of DS and algo. But to create something, if you want to be a backend developer or if you want to be an Android developer, then you should learn Java. Okay. So example of some projects that one should write on their resume.
I would say whatever interests you, firstly, right? So the main thing is like what are the things that interest you, or what are the problems that you face in your own life. That is
Right.
one of the simplest suggestions, right? For example, sometimes I also in my college I used to Google some projects using Java or small projects using Java. Now they say build a chat system or library management system. That damn thing never interested me. I never wanted to make a library management system, right? It's something I didn't want. I feel like building. So what I did was build some simple things, like maybe for me it was my interest. Like I built a remote controlled or mobile controlled door lock, which was a basically IoT kind of concept. But I really enjoyed building that, and I feel a sense of pride that yes, I accomplished it, and I put a video on YouTube, and those things help. Right? Whatever interests you, try to get into that direction. Yes, it will not be easy in the beginning, but keep going.
And you can try GitHub. On GitHub, you can find a lot of projects on different things, right? So
Right.
you can simply search on GitHub on Spring, the project on Spring Boot. Then you can see a lot of projects which are already built. Then you can see the source code and you can learn that how to implement your idea to solve a problem using these frameworks. So
Right.
you can start from there also. Uh, Another very cliche question is, which language has better exposure in current market, C++ or Java? So top is.
So it depends on the role, right? If you are going for desktop side of things, definitely it's C++, right? If you want low latency kind of thing, right? For example, in companies like Tower Research or high frequency trading firms, right? Quant firms, Quant World or something like that. So definitely they are going for C++ or Rust, right? Those are the languages of that domain, right? Now, if you go for the backend side of things, web side of things, definitely it's Java.
So Alicia is in BTech fourth year, and she's asking, is this correct time to learn backend, or should uh, she wait till joining of the company? So I would say that, I mean, if you have time, then you should learn this thing, right? I mean, this is the best time. So if you have already a job offer, then you should try all these things like backend or front end or Android or something that you want to try. Right?
Yeah. So if it just reminded me of my own example. So when I get placed in my like I got placed quite early on in the placement season. Now I had 1 year ahead, and that gave me a really good time to explore different things which I always wanted to explore. And because for the last 3 years I was like, would I get a job or not? Would I get a job or not? Right? Though that kind of mentality is there. But once you get a job, yes, you have the security. Now you have the time. Utilize that time to learn more and more.
Uh, Resources to learn cloud services.
Cloud services like AWS and
Yeah,
Google.
AWS.
Okay. So one simple thing is YouTube is your internet is your oyster and YouTube is the platform to go. But if you are just a beginner, I would say build an account. Firstly, build an account and just Google for any like best YouTube tutorial, best AWS tutorial, and just follow a series end to end. Now there would be many things that you will not understand because you don't. If you do not have the experience in that domain, you won't be able to appreciate much, right? Why there are so many complexities involved, why there are so many computer networking, hardware, memory, and operating system, these kind of concepts involved, right? But if you really want to learn, you need to persist there, and that is the only thing that is because information is there, but you need to persist.
And the one question is, what are the other languages that support backend development? So other languages: Python, PHP, Node.js. So you can try these frameworks to build something. Do startups use Java? Yes, I know. Like Swiggy use Java, Zomato use Java. So my friends are there and they're working and they use Java. And Paytm uses Java. So yeah, startups do use Java. So it will take one or two last question.
Mhm.
The question is, what is socket programming in Java? Like, can you explain in 1 2 minutes?
Okay, so let's think what exactly is a socket, right? So I have personally never used socket programming, but from my understanding, what exactly is socket, right? So if you know a little bit about HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, it's a kind of client to server side, client server interaction in which client initiates a request and server responds to that. Okay. Now it is more of like for any information that needs to be sent from server to the client side, right? There has to be a client which initiates the request. So it's more of a request response kind of movement. On the other hand, socket programming is more like there is a channel which is open between the client and the server, and now both of them can send the information over that open channel or pipeline. This is my understanding. This is my limited understanding. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, so this is the last question. The question is from Mohammed Siddiq. Does your course teach us building real-time projects for microservices using Spring Boot security? Yeah, so in the course, we will real-time projects and real-life projects using Spring Boot, Spring Security, Spring Cloud, and other techs like MySQL, Redis, and Kafka. So one last question. So any suggestion for Java fresher? That I mean, what are the skills they should learn if someone is starting learning Java?
Okay, I think I answered it 2 or 3 times
Yeah, but
already.
still,
Okay, still I would like to take a dig at it. Learn the basics of OOPS, learn the principles like encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, master those, know when to use what, right? There is a like in the newbies, they know how to solve a problem with a particular thing, but compare your solution with an elegantly written code. Is that the most elegant way in which you can solve that problem? Once you have done that, you learn some design patterns. Once you have done that, you learn a framework. Okay, and while learning the framework, try to learn by building something. Simply rote learning like watching videos in a passive manner or just trying to reading a book in a passive manner, that doesn't help, right? That is not the way to learn. You learn best by doing it, by building something.
yeah. So we are done. I mean, you can let us know by commenting that what I mean, on which topics you want us to do a webinar. I mean, we can conduct some more webinars on these kind of topics. Like, I mean, we can call some more experts on machine learning in front end or something, and we can conduct some more webinars. So you can let us know by commenting. And thank you. Thanks
Cool.
for joining.
Thank you, everyone. It's all
Bye.
bye.